John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Good morning and welcome to episode 107 of the Godzilla Wins podcast. I am joined, as always, by editor, contributor, bon vivant of Godzilla Wins, Dan Angel. Also joining us is Coach Vince Mayoko to talk some College World Series with us. John Frederick should be here any minute. And we got a whole, there he is, the Godzilla of Truth. John Fredericks is joining us.
John's like Beetlejuice.
We got a whole show. We are doing a whole hour of College World Series. We are dialed in on last night's games, going to react to those. We're going to be talking about upcoming games today. We're going to be talking about sort of what the future holds for the bracket. We're going to be describing the bracket to you for all the neophytes out there that maybe are unfamiliar with how things work once the College World Series gets to Omaha. We got it all. So you're going to be totally loaded. If you know nothing about the College World Series, get ready because you're going to know a lot soon. Second hour, we're going to be talking the Nations Open in golf with Jay Delsing. We're going to be talking NHL Stanley Cup reactions. It looks like the Florida Panthers are closing in on a sweep. We got a little bit of WNBA, as always, as we continue to discuss sort of the Caitlin Clark news of the moment. So a loaded show. Thank you for joining us. As always, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, or Louisiana, if you live in Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org for Massachusetts. Call 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. And if you live in New York, please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP if you live in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 if you're in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org if you live in Connecticut. If you're in Iowa, it's 1-800-BETS-OFF or visit opgr.org if you live in Oregon. Okay, so that's our disclaimer. That's what we're doing for the show today. We are on to our first segment, which is Weekly Obsessions. I'm just going to keep going with my weekly obsession from last week and talk briefly about the U.S. men's T20 cricket team, which advanced to the Super 8 for the first time in U.S. history. They made it out of the group stage due to a washout in Friday's game. Yesterday's game against Ireland. All they needed was a point. Game got washed out. They said the hell with it, canceled the game. Both teams got a point, and America gets in, and Pakistan gets knocked out.
Wow.
So India and the United States advanced from their region or bracket, and now they are headed to basically like the Caribbean for all these semi-professional athletes that Team America T20 cricket has. Should be a nice vacation as they go to Santa Lucia, Antigua. They're playing like 4 different islands. So this is a big deal for a team that ranked 16th out of 20 coming in, very low expectations. And they just sort of, I guess, just did the bare minimum to be able to advance. They beat Canada, that was a fair game. They pulled off one of the biggest upsets in cricket history against Pakistan, lost to the best team in the world in India, and then got washed out against Ireland to punch their ticket to the Super 8 in the second round of the T20 cricket. Dan, I know that you have something good for us. What are you obsessed with this week?
Euros in Germany looked outstanding against Scotland yesterday, opening that tournament with a 5-1 rout, which ruined my main bet of Germany to win 2-0 thanks to an own goal in the last couple minutes, which is one of the most annoying things about soccer betting is that one goal can cause you to lose it all. But Germany looked really good. Scotland basically got blown to bits early, and it looks like Germany's reliance on young attackers might really pay off. I wasn't really sold on Germany as one of the favorites going into this tournament because Germany has basically been kind of lost since winning the World Cup in 2014. But it looks like the changes that they've made have actually started to pay off, and this is looking more like the team that beat France a couple months ago 2-0. So Germany could be a not so much a dark horse at this point to make a run in Euros because they were only going off at like plus 550, but they could really be a solid bet moving forward.
Right. And is all of this sort of like a good little sort of like primer or warm up for some European teams, international teams in general, as we sort of edge towards the Olympics?
No. So,
okay.
So the way that soccer works, so Olympic soccer works very differently from almost every other sport.
I'm glad I asked.
So for the men, the Olympic teams, like the women, the Olympics are huge for soccer, but for the men, only 3 players over the age of 23 are allowed to play on the Olympic teams. For the most part, it's just under 23 players.
Okay, excellent. That's really good to know.
So yeah, so Olympic soccer for the men is pretty much not a big deal. It's basically just used as a development tournament. Like the United States is playing in the Copa America later this month, and that's going to be the bigger tournament for them. The Olympic roster is for the guys who are good but kind of stars of the future, as opposed to the guys who can help the national team right now.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Dan's dialed in on Europe soccer, always our soccer guy. John, your picture isn't good. We're going to see what your audio is like here, I guess, in a second. What is your weekly obsession?
Well, let's see what the audio is here. I'm in Cape Cod, and the internet service, even when I did the interview with Coach Sabins yesterday with Coach Vince on, when I saw the tape, I was kind of cutting in and out. How's my audio here?
Audio's okay.
Yeah.
Audio's okay for now.
Okay. We'll try to do this. I've got other internet services I can switch to. I've also got a backup laptop that I'll try that once I get through this, and you guys can get going a little bit here on soccer. I got 3 little things here, 3 kind of mini rants. The first one is, if you're not following college baseball World Series, I know we're going to talk about that. The 2 games yesterday were unbelievable. I mean, the walk-offs, watching these kids play. So one of my rant is and I'm going to ask this to Coach Vince, why on earth do we have aluminum bats in college baseball? I mean, these kids, it's not fair to the pitchers. You don't have them here in the Cape Cod League. They're wooden bats. You don't have them in the minor leagues. You're not having the professional level. I get high school. Don't want to break the bats. But college has got enough money now to pay for a wooden bat. I think you should have a wooden bat. So that's one thing. I'm going to get to this Caitlin Clark thing, okay? Why are we even talking about bringing her name up into social wars? Okay, I cover politics 20 hours a week live on radio and TV. Then, except for the half hour I do with Sabins. So it's what? 19 and a half hours. Then probably another 20 hours after that, social media, internet, interviews I do with other outlets. So 30, 40 hours a week, all I do is politics, right? Why on earth do I want this injected in basketball, football, baseball? Shut up. I don't really care what your social stance is. I don't care who LeBron James is voting for. I don't care about Caitlin Clark's political positions. I want to watch a basketball game. I want to watch a baseball game. I want to watch a hockey game. I don't want politics injected. I don't want Black Lives Matter on the side of the court. That's why I've abandoned the NBA for life. They did that for 6 months. Adam Silver's an asshole. Don't want anything to do with that. Don't want people on football field kneeling during the national anthem. I want to see a football game. And so all this thing about Caitlin Clark is, and she did the right thing. She said, hey, don't even put me in this conversation. Then you got, other people on WNBC say, well, you have a voice. You have a responsibility to do what? To say that you're going to vote for liberal left-wing policies, and then we're not going to.
I thought we were going to have an enlightened
check you
stance
into
on
the
this.
court.
Now we're
Like,
drifting.
what is going on here?
Yeah.
You are
All
paid
right.
to play
Okay.
basketball. We are. Wait, I'm not doing my rant. We are paid. What? The audio's gone.
No, you're okay.
All right,
We're just.
I'm done. I'll try.
You're just losing the
platform.
audience.
Bottom line is, play ball. Shut up. Go.
Okay, there we go. All right. Play ball. Let's stick to sports. Okay. Vince, I know this isn't, you're not a regular on this show, so you may not, have prepared as much for the weekly obsession, but we'll give you a chance if you got something that's in the college.
You've got your rant. I don't want politics injected. I don't want politics injected. That's all. That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah, we can agree on that.
Let's move on.
Okay. Vince, what have you been thinking about with the College World Series? What's your sports obsession this week?
Well, we're going to obviously talk CWS here.
Listen, I'm not getting your audio, so I'm going to try a different platform, guys. I'll be back.
We'll see you in a minute.
All right, see you, John. I'm going to kind of spin off of John. I believe the United States Olympic Committee this week ruled that the person that refers to himself or herself as Leah Thomas is not allowed to partake in the U.S. Olympic trials for swimming. So my personal opinion, I think that was a good ruling. And I just ran across that the other day. And I don't think that is an international Olympic Committee ruling. I believe that was just a U.S. Olympic Committee ruling on that.
Yeah, and that's been something that all of the different, I think, sort of the sort of messiness with the Olympic qualifying, as far as I understand it, without diving too deeply into this, is they all seem to have sort of different policies and different sort of ways that they are regulating the sort of changing landscape as things go on. And U.S. swimming has taken a more restrictive approach than other sports, but because all of these different governing bodies sort of control who goes to the Olympics, who can qualify, how they qualify, et cetera, it's created sort of a little bit of a confusing atmosphere, to say the least, in terms of who gets in and how they get in, I think. So we are going to move on. John is still reconnecting. We're going to get through some live reads, I think, sort of after he gets back on, because he just crushes the Healthy Cell live read. And I could never even compete with John's sort of autobiographical live read of Healthy Cell and how he needs it for sleep and recovery. So that he can find the energy to find internet in Cape Cod. So
if we're waiting on live reads, Nate, one thing I wanted to ask Vince. So the end of that first game, would you have pitched to Vance Honeycutt or not there?
No way would have I pitched to him, and that's not 2020 vision. We talked about this last week with Charlie Condon. I mean, how many pitches would he see in his series? And he saw more than I thought he would see. But there is no way, because if you put Honeycutt on in the bottom of the ninth, he's meaningless.
Yeah.
In fact, you can make the argument he gives you a better option where if the guy hits a ground ball, you could throw it to second base for a force out and get out of the inning and send it to extra innings. But if you don't have Honeycutt circled as a guy that you're not going to allow to beat you, then I don't know who in that lineup you would circle. But no, if I'm in that dugout, I am not pitching to Honeycutt in the bottom of the ninth.
I felt the same way, and I wanted to ask you before I made that same argument, since obviously this is your sport that you live and breathe. But yeah, it just made no sense to me because, as you said, he's the one guy in that lineup who has been just blazing hot. And the same kind of a similar thing happened in the second game where you let Moore have a chance to hit that double in the last inning.
You're correct there. The only thing with Moore in his situation, I believe he representing the tying run at the plate?
He was the tying run, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only thing is, kind of basically you don't put the tying or winning run on base. Now,
right.
Of course, Buck Showalter changed that landscape 20 years ago when he intentionally walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded up by 2 runs. But,
Mhm.
but well, I know we're going to talk more about Christian Moore, but wow,
Yeah.
what you talk about a game of the ages.
Oh my God, yes.
That was it right there.
Yeah.
So I've had this question, and I guess it's not on the schedule, and like, you know, while we're kind of waiting for John, I had a question for both of you, I guess, as I've been sort of newly minted watching the College World Series. Obviously, I was following, you know, West Virginia with Joe and everything because obviously, you know, been close with the family for a number of years. And there was one thing that I just kept thinking about, and it had to do with, you know, in the regular season, there's this sort of mercy rule or whatever, you know, up by 10 runs after 7 innings. And I just kept thinking how hard it was on these teams when they were down by 10 runs, you know, kind of in the first game of these super regionals. Like, would it make for a more fair sort of competitive advantage if teams could just say, like, we're done today? Like, you know, you don't need to have like the 10-run mercy rule if you want to keep playing, cool. But would it make for like a more level playing field for teams that maybe don't have as much depth to just be like, they get down 8 runs and they're just like, you know what, we'll see you tomorrow. Like, we'll just take it easy. Like, does that change the competitive dynamic, or is that like a change that I just kept thinking, like, gosh, it's so hard on these kids to run them out, you know, twice in a day. You know, they were playing such compressed schedules. I just kept thinking it might be like better for teams to just be able to just sort of like pack it in sometimes if things were.
Well, I think if you look at that, I think it gives the winning team an unfair advantage because they get to save their bullpen for an additional 2 innings. So if they'll say they're boat racing, they'll say the Florida UConn game last week, Florida State. I mean, if they shut that down after 7, that makes Florida State even more dangerous in games 2 and if needed, a game 3. So you can look at it from that standpoint also.
Okay, yeah. And I was just thinking about it from the standpoint of the losing team. Like, gosh, you're running so many guys out there that are just getting shelled. It's got to be hard for them, not only physically, but mentally. You know, it's like maybe just call it a day and at least, you know, have like a little bit more of a competitive game maybe tomorrow or something, you know.
I know a lot of conference tournaments run the 10-run rule when they're in their postseason conference tournaments. But once you get to the NC2A, to the official postseason, everything is just straight up baseball at that point in time. And I think maybe some conferences might run, even during their regular season, some 10-run rule games. But
right.
But during the playoffs, it's big boy baseball, that's for sure.
Yeah. Actually, that came up in the Southland Conference tournament when I was in Louisiana. So normally, everyone thought that the 10-run rule only applied for the first few rounds before the championship game of the tournament because they had never actually been in the position where they could have to use the 10-run rule in the championship game. And then Nicholls State just unloaded on McNeese in the title game. So in like the 6th inning with McNeese trailing by, I think, 13 runs, the word starts going through the stands that they've, like, I don't know if they had said this was just an undiscovered rule or they'd actually changed the rule, but they had decided that the 10-run rule was going to be active and McNeese was down to like an inning and a half to go.
Okay, so a lot of confusion because I was reading about it and I was kind of just going back and forth.
Yeah,
and just,
but like I was actually at that Florida State UConn game, and both teams were just emptying the bench and getting pretty much their entire roster on the field. So yeah, it does weigh on the bullpen a little bit, but at the same time, that's also the advantage that the team that's winning the game has earned. And I mean, at that point in the game, the coach also has the ability to decide, you know what, we've lost this one. Let's get the guys at the back end of the bullpen some work and maybe set them up for future seasons. So we'll just throw someone out there. What happens, and we'll just reset and try again tomorrow.
Gotcha. Yeah. John, it looks like you are back and you don't look like you're in witness protection anymore. I can actually see some details of your face. So why don't you tell us about
we were probably better off the other way.
True.
Depends on who you ask, I guess. Why don't you tell us about Healthy Cell, John?
Well, listen, I got a good night's sleep last night because I take my REM sleep. If you don't have REM sleep, just ask yourself why. I mean, that's really the question here. This is the best sleep aid you're ever going to get. It's all natural. It's not habit forming. but it puts you into deep sleep. Like I went to bed last night after the Tennessee game. I don't know what time that was, and I got up at 7:30, so maybe got 7 hours. But I feel like a new man because I take that REM sleep when I go to bed. It puts you in the 4 deep sleeps, and it puts you in the dream state, which is where your body regenerates. That is really the key to this thing. And so it's easy because 15 minutes before you go to bed, you take it, you tear it off, you down it, you brush your teeth, you wash, whatever you do before you go to bed, you hop into bed, 15 minutes, you're out like a light. And then you get in that deep sleep. Now you're going to have all kinds of crazy dreams. I don't remember them, so good for me. But you do remember that you had them. But man, that clock went off today. I jumped out of bed. I'm in Cape Cod. I'm ready to go. Now, this happens to me every day. This week, I was getting 5 hours of sleep. I had to drive up here. I got all kinds of things to do at night as we're preparing. We got politics all over the place. So I'm getting 5.5 a night. I felt great. Shows were awesome. And dealing with the internet here. The best thing that you can do for your body, for your health, for your peace of mind, and just for quality of life. Right? At 66, I'm into quality of life, right? You got to get a good night's sleep. So all you have to do is go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, healthycell.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla is going to get you 20% off the first order. Now, there's a bunch of other things on there. There's the multivitamin. I take that. There's the focus and recall. Get a little bit older, you want to take that. Keeps you sharp. All the things are natural, all the vitamins that you need. Promo code Godzilla, 20% off, healthycell.com/Godzilla. Do not deprive yourself of the best night's sleeps you're ever going to have with healthycell.com/Godzilla. REM sleep, REM.
All right. Thank you, John. All right. So Dan wrote an awesome write-up for the website, GodzillaWins.com. If you want to read it, it's under his column there, Model Talks, where Dan just kind of breaks down some common questions people have, discusses sort of some betting nuance stuff that's a little bit more evergreen. And this week he took on the College World Series and just sort of mostly frequently asked questions that myself or Jack were asking him. He wrote it all down so that visual learners like myself can read it 117 times and still maybe not really understand or be comfortable discussing it live, but Dan can. So Dan, just tell us how Omaha elimination works. Tell us how these sort of brackets are grouped and sort of what the certain betting angles are for people that, have a little money burning a hole in their pocket and want to kind of throw down on some College World Series action.
Sure. So basically the way that the College World Series works is it's kind of a hybrid of the regionals and the super regionals. So for the first stage of the College World Series, the teams are broken down into 2 4-team brackets. So similar to how the regionals work. So the top half of the bracket is Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida State. And then the bottom bracket is Florida, Texas A&M, NC State, Kentucky. So the top bracket is going to play a double elimination tournament. The bottom bracket will play a double elimination tournament. So there's no crossover between the brackets in this first stage. It's just 2 separate 4-team tournaments. And they're also going to kind of alternate which days they play as long as there are enough teams available for them to do that, because they only play 2 games a day as opposed to in conference tournaments where you can play 4 games a day. So, for example, yesterday, the top bracket played. Today, it's going to be the bottom bracket. NC State will play Kentucky. Florida will play Texas A&M. Then Sunday, we'll see the top bracket return with 1 elimination game between Virginia and Florida State and 1 surviving game between North Carolina and Tennessee. And we'll go back to the bottom bracket the next day, and we'll continue until we're down to just 2 teams. And then those 2 teams will meet in the championship series, which work like the super regionals. So the championship series is a best of 3. So, and as you alluded to, Nate, there are no 10-run rules in any of these games, which actually did come up last year, because in the championship series final, there was one game where Florida beat LSU 18-4. And then the next day, LSU turned around and scored 24 runs on them. So it doesn't matter how many runs one team scores. They're going to play the full 9 innings regardless. So that's something to keep in mind when you're betting totals, because the totals are going to come out usually the night before. So you'll see the money lines come out a good deal in advance. So like yesterday, if you wanted to bet, DraftKings had Virginia, Carolina, and FSU, Tennessee's money lines like 2 or 3 days in advance. The totals didn't come out until late the night before. So if you're the kind of bettor who likes to go totals or spreads, then you'll want to check probably while you're watching the second game of the day for the next day's games. If you're just looking to bet the money line, you can look pretty good and pretty far in advance because those will pop up almost as soon as the identity of the teams are known. And then as far as the futures, who picking who's going to win this thing, it's pretty wide open because out of the 8 teams that are here, only 3 have ever won the title before, and only 2 of them have won the title in the last half century. Because Tennessee has a title in 1951, but it's so long ago that there's some media sources who have forgotten that even exists and are claiming the Vols are trying to win their first title in program history. But the only ones who have actually won the title in this century are Florida and Virginia. Kentucky's never even been to Omaha before, so that's a pretty cool story in itself that they're the number 2 seed and this is their first appearance ever in the College World Series. And NC State is kind of looking to make amends for the 2021 tournament when COVID was still a thing and the Wolfpack got disqualified because they got COVID right before their elimination game with Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt got a free pass into the championship final and NC State had to go home without ever getting to play that elimination game. So kind of interesting storyline there. And then, of course, Florida State has the unwanted distinction of being the best program to never win a national title. This is the Seminoles' 24th appearance all time in Omaha, and they have never come home with the hardware.
Yeah, and in a World Series, College World Series, where there's a lot of unknowns and there's potentially a lot of volatility. We saw some of it last night, obviously, at the end of the game. I guess what we know for sure is that someone from the ACC or the SEC will win this.
That is true.
Because they're the only 2 conferences that send anybody to Omaha. In sort of at least to me, is just sort of like a novice in college baseball, like sort of shocking. Like I find it hard to imagine, this sort of scenario in any other sort of major college sport where it's just like, you get the best 8 teams and they're really only two conferences. Although maybe this is just a symptom of sort of like what, conference realignment is going to look like. Maybe we should all be just sort of used to this. Is it shocking for Vince? Like, is this shocking for you that the SEC and the ACC would be the only conferences represented in these 8 teams?
Not in 2024. It's the landscape of college athletics where it's the big boys. We see that in football. Obviously, we'll have the same discussion in December when you see the Big Ten and the SEC dominating probably 8 of the 12 picks that will go on to the football bowl national playoffs. I wanted to ask Dan a question. How come they don't reseed when they get to the College World Series? To me, Florida State and Tennessee could have theoretically been a championship matchup.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I wish I knew that answer, Vince. That's a great question. They really should. There's been some people joking that what they should have done was just swap NC State and Tennessee and make it an all ACC bracket versus an all SEC bracket. Well,
I was thinking
that's
that.
Kind of humorous. I think your idea is absolutely right. They should, because they're all there anyway. Just reseed it and make it so that the top seeds get a little bit of that protection and match up the highest seed with the weakest team to make it. So we would have gotten, say, Tennessee and Florida, and I think some of the other matchups might have been, let's see if I can remember these seeds off the top of my head. Kentucky, I think, would have been playing Virginia. I think Texas A&M would have been facing NC State, and Florida State would have been up against North Carolina, which, you're going to get good matchups anyway, but that would have been really intriguing.
I remember back in the day, and I'm sure John. No, go ahead, John.
John, dive in.
I wanted to ask Coach Vince a question. May I? Nate, can I do that?
Yes.
All right, Coach
Absolutely.
Vince, because I want to get your permission after you cut off my rant. Because you are the host, so
okay. Well, Vince, we'll see then.
What do you? Yeah, it's all good, right? You can cut me off at any time, and then you can put a little shirt on that says "I'm Jack too," and we're all good. Vince, let me ask you this: you got a game last night, right? FSU, Tennessee. What does the Seminoles coach say to his team today? You had a 9-4 lead. You got the best pitcher in college baseball throwing darts. I mean, there's no way you're going to lose this game. Then they get close. Then you score another 2 runs. You got a 3-run lead going to the bottom of the ninth. You're in control of this game the whole time. They score 4 runs in the bottom of the ninth. Now you're hanging by a thread. You get up today. Forget last night. As a coach, a baseball coach, what do you tell that team?
I think right now the saving grace for Florida State is they don't play today. They get the day off. I think it would be very tough for those guys to go back on the field today after just losing a gut-wrenching game. And you can make the argument, John, that game might have been over on the check swing with 2 strikes. Yeah. It was a 50-50 call. That third base umpire could have easily brought up the right hand and said, yes, he went, and Florida State would have won that game. So when you break it down to that's how close that game was, that it was decided on essentially a check swing, I think the Seminoles are happy they have the day off.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Vince. And that, like, watching that game, I mean, Arnold clearly wasn't at his best, but it's hard to be at your best against that Tennessee lineup because there's just no weak spot 1 through 9. Like, how do you even prepare to face a team like that?
You know, if that game would have been played in an SEC park, that game might have been 25 to 24.
Oh my God, yes.
Night. There were balls that were absolutely destroyed that didn't even reach the warning track.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes Christian Moore's home run even more impressive.
Yeah.
Hit a tank to dead center that was 440, went 440. Probably, if that's a home game, that probably thing is close to 500 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, the balls do not travel there at Omaha, which is much different than it did at the old Rosenblatt. Old Rosenblatt was a launching pad.
Sure.
But it's a totally different game there. But I say a totally different game, and you still had a 12-11 game, which was basically the complete opposite of game 1, where you had a 3-2 game. So no matter if you're a pitching and defense guy or a guy that likes to see big bangers, you had it both ways yesterday, where you saw a good pitching performance in game 1, and the big boys came to swing the bats in game 2.
Yeah. And
Coach Vince, why is Honeycutt? I saw the mock draft. What Honeycutt gets another walk off yesterday, but the 5th one he's had in a row or something. Yeah. He gets another one yesterday. Then I look, guys, and I'll just pose this to everybody. I look at the mock draft, and they got him picked 25. Why isn't he in the top 5? I mean, this kid's unbelievable. Can somebody answer that?
Well, I tell you, if he's playing center field for Florida State, he probably catches that ball in the 9th inning near the fence.
Yeah.
No, he's good. He's as good as anybody. Now, one of the drafts I've seen him in, I see him listed as possibly the number. Well, I think he's the number 5 overall pick with the remaining players that are in the College World Series. So yeah, you're probably right. He's probably going to be a mid to late round, 1st round draft pick. But boy, he's good. He's as good as any outfielder, and not just a defensive guy. Obviously, he swings it well too. Athletic. I mean, he's your prototypical professional type center fielder.
Yeah. Then something you said that I want to go back to. You talked about how the ball just doesn't carry in Omaha. What do you think the reason for that is? Is that park shape, dimensions, just the weather? Because you also mentioned how in an SEC or an ACC park, the balls would have been flying out of there. And I put that in my piece, so I'm previewing the game, how Jamie Arnold was probably glad that he wasn't in Tallahassee because of that short right field porch that the Seminoles have. What's your take on all that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do. It is a spacious ballpark, no question about it. I think it's at least 330 down the lines, 400 to center. The gaps look pretty big, but I think a lot of it is just how the wind blows in Omaha too. The wind blows typically in or from foul pole to foul pole. When they used to have it at Old Rosenblatt, I think the wind blew out, so it was probably configured in a different direction. And that probably that would be my best educated guess on why the balls don't travel as well at the new ballpark in downtown Omaha as opposed to the old one.
Sure.
All right, so we got a little bit more to talk about, but we also got a live read to do. John, Jack tells me you're on a weight loss journey, so you might be in the market for some new pants soon. There's no better pants in the game than Newfound Threads. I should have known you were going to be grumpy this morning based on that information, and I just really didn't. I dropped the ball on that. Tell us about Newfound Threads and your newfound pants, newfound favorite pants.
Well, this diet sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's put me in a bad mood. I'm grumpy because, well, first of all, Ann's not here. Joe's off at his, whatever they call it, host family. So I'm by myself on this diet. You'd be grumpy too if you were doing this. No alcohol, no this, no that. I went to forget the pants, right? I'm not going to do the pants thing. I'm just going to go on this diet rant because you brought it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, here's the only good thing about it. So I'm at the grocery store, and you go down the aisles, you go down the aisles and you see the signs that say what's in there, like cat food or, pet food or whatever, dairy products. So I'm going down the aisles, right? So I got a cart. Now I got to be honest, I haven't gone shopping in, I don't know, 30 years maybe, except for, buy these 3 things. So the honey-do list. So I'm going down the aisles, right? So you look at the aisles and you see what's up there. And I'm like, no, normally you go shopping, you go up and down the aisles to figure out what you want. So look at the sign. I'm like, can't have any of that, can't have any of that, can't have any of that, can't have any of that. Oh, spinach. Oh, yeah, I can have that. Can't have any of that, can't have any of that. Head of lettuce. Yeah, I can get that. And then there's a whole alcohol section. Can't do that. So I was in and out of there in 15 minutes. I guess that's the positive of it. Grocery shopping.
Yeah, really streamlines your approach.
And look, I'm gonna have to buy new pants. I mean, it's this absolute. But look, I mean, I'm 66. I'd like to be around a while. My family's been on me to get a better lifestyle. I have to lose weight. I can tell you that my mobility has gone down as I'm getting older. No question about it. So I've been on it for a week now. This is day 7, right? What's this, Saturday? Right. So this will be day 7. I started Sunday. I've lost, I was 285. I'm down to 277, 278. Right. So how much is that? 7 pounds?
About a pound a day.
And I don't really see a difference, but it is what it is. I'd like to be around and see, I mean, I'll tell you how I make out. But so far, I'm very disciplined, as you guys know. I've not cheated so far, but Ann is on her way up here. There's a 13-hour drive from Pittsburgh. Ann is on her way up here, so she'll be able to help me out. But it's all good. But if you do want a nice pair of pants, best slacks out there, go to newfoundthread.com, newfoundthread.com, promo code Godzilla. You're going to get 20% off, free shipping through the end of June. And I've got 4 pairs of these pants. Hopefully I have to buy 4 new pairs that are a smaller size. So we'll see what happens. newfoundthread.com.
So we've talked about it a little bit, but just to kind of recap what happened yesterday, we had a fairly close game with UNC beating Virginia by 1 run, the Honeycutt walk-off that we talked about, and then obviously the sort of roaring Tennessee comeback against Florida State. We sort of discussed a little bit the reactions. We didn't get John's reaction yet to it because that was when he was off the air. But I guess we'll just open it up with Vince just talking about UNC Virginia. It's another clutch hitting thing. It's for whatever reason, it seems like whenever I watch North Carolina anyways, Honeycutt's always up in the 9th, and then he just takes care of business. And I don't know how that always happens. There's 9 guys in the lineup, and Honeycutt always seems to be there with a chance to win it at the end of the game. I mean, what do you do? How do you stop them? What's the limit for UNC if they can just?
I think they're going to get eliminated. I think they're going to get eliminated. You can't keep winning games with one guy in the bottom of the 9th inning. Eventually, stuff runs out. So I don't see this team. I know right now it's magical. All you Tar Heel fans are jumping up and down. I get it. All the games are exciting. All the games are won in the ninth inning. I'm biased, obviously. We could have been in Omaha. This hat you're seeing right here West Virginia could have been in Omaha, shouldn't have gotten beat the first game, could have won the second game. Both games came down to the final out in the ninth inning. West Virginia's a good team, and I should be in Omaha now, not Cape Cod, although Cape Cod is gorgeous, by the way. So I'm just not a believer. And eventually this stuff runs out. I mean, you just can't keep winning games in the bottom of the ninth inning over and over and over and over with one guy. Eventually you're going to run into a buzzsaw. And so I don't like the Tar Heels winning this thing. Maybe they get past the next game, but I don't see them. I don't see this team. I mean, if I'm looking at anybody now, it's Tennessee. I mean that. They're not out of any game ever. With that game you get yesterday, I mean, I was floored by it, and it was exciting to watch. So that's kind of my thing. Honeycutt's unbelievable, but I think their luck runs out.
Vince, what do you think?
I agree with John, but the only thing that I might disagree with John is the way that North Carolina is playing right now. As long as they keep winning, they play every other day and not every day. And that's going to keep their arms in a much better position as opposed to a typical regional where they're having to play a game every day. And in some cases, you might have to play two in a game if you come through the loser's bracket. The longer Carolina stays in the winner's bracket, the better it benefits them for obvious reasons, as it would benefit any other team, but probably more so with them because I don't think they have the big they definitely don't have the lineup that a Tennessee or a Florida State has, but they've got good arms. And I'm telling you, that bullpen arm they have, that Dalton Pence, he's good. He is really good. I mean, he comes out of that bullpen, and he's not just a closer where you throw him out in the ninth inning. He can throw multiple innings. So if Carolina's in the game or if they have a lead going into the seventh, Pence comes in and he's done a good job in this postseason of throwing zeros up.
Yeah, and that's kind of the antithesis of Florida State, really. Like, I've watched the Seminoles, not as much as John's watched West Virginia, of course, but I've watched the Seminoles a fair amount being down here in northern Florida, and every time that I've watched them, it seems that their biggest Achilles heel has been that bullpen. I mean, Brennan Oxford has done okay, but he didn't get the job done against Connecticut, and when he came in, there just wasn't that sense of, okay, this game's under control that you want your closer to have. It was kind of a nervous situation for FSU fans, and I just don't know if FSU has the pitching depth to come back through the losers bracket. I mean, you don't have Jamie Arnold available anymore. Carson Dorsey has done an admirable job of pitching against some pretty tough opponents and giving some really great performances this postseason, but I just don't trust that bullpen coming back.
Yeah, and that really segues us into the reaction from Tennessee's game, last night. And John sort of, set the table. We've discussed it a little bit, but any sort of like final thoughts on like if Tennessee's just going to be able to put up runs whenever they need to or want to or whatever, like, can they be stopped? I mean, they're the favorites to win this whole thing. They're plus 290, or they were to open the tournament. I'm sure that the odds have probably gone down a little bit now that they've had that sort of, comeback win. As they were already favored. Is Tennessee kind of clearly the best team, or do you worry about a team that still gave up, 11 runs and needed a roaring comeback to win this whole thing? I guess what I'm wondering is how wide open is this College World Series?
Vince, you want to take it?
Yeah.
I think it's obviously, I think right now you look at paper, Tennessee is obviously the team to beat in the upper bracket. But that lower bracket, which starts today, is fascinating. You really think about it. There's two teams that have been playing a lot of home games, Kentucky and Texas A&M, and they both have, I think Texas A&M might have the best home field advantage in all of baseball, college baseball. But there are two teams that have had to do some road work, and most specifically the Florida Gators, who have played every single game outside of Gainesville. And they're a team that entered the tournament only one game over the 500. I believe they were the last team in.
I think you're right.
At-larges. There were some West Coast teams that Cal could have easily gotten in. There were a few other teams that probably had a better resume, at least record-wise, than Florida did. But when you get on a roll like Florida is and doing it on the road, I think you're a little more battle tested than being in College Station and playing every single pitch in College Station with the bubbles being blown and the ball fives and all that being chanted by the crowd. So I think Florida State, if they're a sleeper in this whole thing. And it's hard to say that Florida being a sleeper. Another team that I really like is North Carolina State. They had the opportunity to play the regional at home, but they had to go on the road last week and beat the Georgia Bulldogs. And I'm telling you, of all the teams that I've seen, we talked about Dalton Pence, a closer for Carolina. North Carolina State has two bullpen arms that are as good as any bullpen arms in the game. I mean, they run a couple guys out there that are mid to upper 90s, and they come in, like one will throw the seventh and maybe eighth inning, and they bring a guy in the ninth. And it's like, holy cow, it's like you're watching Major League Baseball from that standpoint, the high velocity, maximum effort type arms coming out of the bullpen. And those are two teams that had to win some games on the road here in the postseason. And I think winning road games in the postseason maybe translates better to playing in a neutral environment like in Omaha. So, and if you look at your odds, if you're a betting person, you look at your odds. Those are teams where you can get some pretty good odds on as far as maybe picking a team to win the whole thing.
Vince, a lot of the players I talk to that are involved in this in college baseball tell me that head coach Tony Vitello of Tennessee is one of the best coaches to play for. And I've asked a couple of questions, why do you guys say that? And, the mantra seems to be he's always got their back. He always defends them. He's a tight-knit team. He never anybody in. And whenever he's in the media, he defends his players. Other players told me that they'd walk through a wall for this guy, that they'd walk over burning glass. He's got that kind of a relationship. We talked about a little bit about that the other day. How does Vitello's culture play into this now that you got 8 teams remaining, Vince?
Did you see his rant last week after the Evansville series? I don't know if any of you saw that. It was classic. And I'm looking and I'm listening to Tony Vitello talking about him. If I was 18 to 21 years of age, I would love to play for that guy. And that's the impression. Like last night, they were interviewing Peyton Manning in the stands, and he was even singing Vitello's praise about how great of a recruiter he is, obviously, but not just being a great recruiter, how he has his thumbprints over every aspect of that program, from weight and conditioning work to practices, nutrition. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, he is definitely the godfather of that program, no question about it.
Yeah. So, John, it looked like you got up there for a second. I assume you're getting more Beard Vet coffee. You wanna lead us into a Beard Vet coffee little live read here?
Well, I got my Beard Vet here. I wouldn't travel without it. Can't go to Cape Cod without your Beard Vet. And look, do yourself. This is why I love Beard Vet. First of all, the coffee's smooth. It's fantastic. It's the best coffee I ever had. When you're traveling around, you got to drink that hotel coffee. You only right. Beard Vet's the people's coffee. Why do we say that? Because pods are 50 cents. You got other people advertising, pods are $1.50. I can't afford that. Nobody in media can buy that. That's like the elite stuff. I like the people's coffee as Beard Vet for the price. It's the best you're going to get. You can get off. The other thing is you're talking college baseball. Kenny Lee and Sean George, these are veterans. They were in Afghanistan. They were in Iraq. They were getting shot out. They were getting blown up. They had a bond. They couldn't get a cup of. They're coffee drinkers. All those 3 tours they did, risk, they couldn't get a good cup of Joe. And they said, look, if we ever make it out of here one piece, we're going to shake hands now. We're going to start a coffee company. We're going to get the best coffee we can make, and we're going to make it available and price it so that people can buy it. And that's what they've done. That's why I'm such a big fan of Beard Vet coffee. Go to beardvet.com, beardvet.com, promo code Godzilla. Boom, 10% off. You get the pot. You get the grounds. Right now, I just made a pot. So I got the grounds going here along with the pods. So I actually have a coffee pot here, condo cod that I had to figure out. So luckily I brought those. I'm good to go. Beardvet.com, promo code Godzilla, 10% off. Over $50 free shipping. So you buy a couple bags, a couple boxes of pods, boom, you're good to go. Beard Vet, the people's coffee, and it's Great.
Beard Vet Coffee, longtime sponsor. All right. So we got 2 games today, and we're just going to kind of just do, we've sort of been talking sort of globally about the bracket and, teams that we sort of, are interested in. But just for today, if somebody's just like, I just want to, know who to bet on for the game today, we have NC State's taking on UK, University of Kentucky. That's going to be at 2 o'clock Central Time or 2 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yep.
Kentucky's a slight favorite. The number 2 seed versus number 10. Who do we like? I guess what should we look for in this Kentucky NC State game today? What are the sort of big talking points? I'll lead with Vince here. And who do we expect to kind of come out victorious in this matchup? Obviously in double elimination, winning this first game is massive. So who do we like in the Kentucky NC State game, Vince?
Well, we just talked about Tony Vitello, the head coach at Tennessee, but man, I'm telling the head coach at Kentucky, and the name's eluding me at this moment in time, but I loved his reaction after they won the Super Regionals last week. And it was classic. It's all about the kids and not about the coaching staff. He let his team celebrate on the field. Him and his coaching staff stayed in the dugout and just let his players soak it in. And after the game and interviews were being said, one of the players or one of the staff at Kentucky hands him the Super Regional trophy. And he says, "This isn't mine, this is the players," and hands it back. And that just gave me a better appreciation that this guy is a grounded guy. And you could see that that it really, he wasn't really happy for himself. He was happy for his program and his kids. So I have a kind of an appreciation for Kentucky, and they're without question. I mean, they've got good arms, and if you're the number 1 overall seed, you've got a good resume. But I want to get back to North Carolina State. I mentioned they're back of the bullpen guys, guy named Jacob Dudan and Derek Smith, and if State is in it late in that game, boy, I tell you, those are 2 arms that come at you, and they're intimidating.
Yeah. So,
what do we like for a pick here?
So the thing that I'm looking for this game is Kentucky's speed versus NC State's catcher, because Jacob Cozart is one of the best at throwing out would-be base stealers. Kentucky was the best base stealing team in the SEC, but the Wildcats also have a tendency to run themselves out of innings sometimes. Kentucky also led the SEC in caught stealing. I think they had 31 base stealers get caught during the regular season. And the game that I saw them against Florida, Kentucky had one situation where they had first and second, nobody out, and there was a miscommunication, and both runners ended up getting tagged out on a steal attempt. So the Wildcats do have that tendency to occasionally make mistakes on the base paths, and State has a really strong weapon in Cozart behind the dish, and I think that could play a really big role here. So I think NC State is going to pull this off. I think this is the right matchup for the Wolfpack.
Okay.
So, but I mean, Kentucky is a really great story. The coach's name is Nick Mingione. So just to get that out there. But yeah, this program was basically nothing until he arrived, and now they're the number 2 seed overall when they'd never even made it to Omaha before. That's pretty incredible.
John, you got any picks for this game?
I love Kentucky here. I get the whole NC State story. I get the coach. I get the players. I get the closers. Closers don't matter if you're not winning the game. You can have the best closer in the world. It doesn't matter. When the Astros are getting beat every day, you can't bring Josh Hader in when you're down 8-3 in the 9th inning. So it doesn't matter. I love Kentucky. By the way, the Astros suck, and I'm glad they got rid of Abreu. And the team is a disaster, and I don't even want to go there. But Kentucky's a better team.
And yet you just did.
Yeah, don't even go there. They just absolutely suck. So even though they won last night, so the closer you're gonna have setup. You got to be winning the game. I don't see NC State matching up here to Kentucky. Kentucky's been a powerhouse all season. This is the other thing. I hate to say this, but the SEC rules, bud. I mean, I'm sorry. SEC rules. I don't see any of these ACC teams getting there. So I like Kentucky today in this game. I think their starting pitching is better. I think their bats are. think they win this game. And if they're ahead 7-3, you can bring in all the closures you want. Doesn't matter. Game over. Kentucky today.
Hey,
All
one
right.
last thing with Kentucky. I think I'm starting to think about this more. Kentucky's style of play might match up better in that ballpark with their speed.
That's true.
And you look back 10 years ago when UCLA had a nice run. They were all about pitching, defense, and team speed, and they won a couple College World Series. So I think Kentucky might be a good play from that standpoint, just in the environment they're going to be in over the next 7 to 10 days.
Well, today if you go to DraftKings today, and I don't pick or bet college baseball for obvious reasons. I got a son who's a player, so I just don't do it. But if I was betting this game today, Kentucky's 144. I don't think that's that big of a line. I do that. I'd probably bet him just if I was betting the props, I bet him to win this series too. I just think they're a better team than NC State.
All right, and then we got the nightcap game. If you're maybe having a little Saturday evening out, maybe having a little dinner, you're sitting at the bar, it's 7 o'clock Eastern time, and you're thinking maybe fire up the DraftKings account and just have a little sweat for the Florida Texas A&M game in the evening. Who do we like here? So Texas A&M is obviously the number 3 seed overall. Florida came in, basically unseeded. A&M's a minus 160 favorite right now in this game. Does Florida have a chance for the upset? I'll lead with you, Dan. Florida.
Well,
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, Florida's got a chance, and Texas A&M is also down its best player because Braden Montgomery broke his ankle in the Super Regionals. So that's a big blow to the Aggies. And Florida, I'm interested to see how their style plays in that ballpark, playing off what Vince said, because Florida has just so much power throughout its lineup. It's not quite Tennessee power, but Jack Caglione certainly is. So it'll be really interesting to see how A&M pitches against him. And I'm pretty sure that Florida actually won 2 out of 3 against the Aggies when they played in SEC play. And I think that series was in Gainesville. I wasn't sure where it was, but Florida did win 2 out of 3 in that series when they met in the regular season. So the Gators are going to have no fear of the Aggies, and I think they're the pick here.
Vince, should the Aggies be nervous about this matchup?
They should be very nervous about this matchup, especially with Montgomery being on the shelf. That's an unfortunate injury because he's as good as anybody in the country. Maybe even the Honeycutt type of player.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack Caglione, he we talked about this last week. A true, and I think he will be drafted as a two-way guy, a guy that can swing it and pitch it as well too.
Yep.
And that's a dangerous team, Florida. That's a very dangerous team.
John?
There's no way I'd lay 160. I mean, I can't believe line with their best player out. Hey, one thing I do want to I want to throw my 2 cents in here. If you bet this stuff, when I was first betting baseball back, when I was, when you bet it with bookmakers back when I was 23 or 21 years old or something, you had a dime line, right? It was called a dime line, and you had a lot of bookmakers out there. It was up over the phone and pay phone. You put the dimes in it or something. Before cell phones, you couldn't call from your home. You just call from the payphone, and you had the dime line. The dime line is, it would be like 160, 150, 120, 110. So you had a dime line. You'd lay 120 or you'd get 110, right? That was called the dime line. If you were a big better and you had to deal with a bookmaker, you would get a 5-cent line, 125 or 120. I never did that. I was, betting $100, $200 back then, betting baseball games. Now you go to a 36-cent line. That's like, how do you win? So if you bet Florida, you bet Texas A&M, you're laying 160 to win 100. Okay, fine. But if you bet winning 150 for 100, you're winning $1.24. So like DraftKings can't lose because they're vigorous. You can't lose. So if they get an equal amount of money bet on each team, they make absolute fortune because of that spread. Absolutely outrageous. That's why, for other reasons, but I tell you, betting college baseball on any of these platforms is a total ripoff.
Hey, John, did you ever bet any Wilbur Wood starts?
Yes.
All right.
Well
we
done,
are going
Vince.
to
Well
going to
done.
reset for the second hour. Thank you, Vince, as always, for coming on to the show. We always appreciate you for the College World Series, and we'll probably see you again soon. We're going to be talking NHL, WNBA, and the U.S. Open in the second hour. We will be right back.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
We are back on the Godzilla Wins radio show, episode 107. We are done talking about College World Series, and we are here with one of our favorites, Jay Delsing, former PGA Tour player, golf extraordinaire, man about town, doing this from his car. I don't know where are you in Pinehurst right now, Jay?
I'm not. I wish I was, but
You're just playing
how
golf?
Can you tell I'm doing this from my car?
Man, I never even thought to try that, Jay. Well
At
done.
least I'm not driving. I thought, well, hell, I probably ought to just pull over.
I see golf carts in the back, so you must be somewhere golf related.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we got the U.S. Open, obviously, going on right now at a very crispy Pinehurst number 2. It looks like it's just going to get more and more severe as the weekend progresses. I think that they've seen the easiest parts of this course, and it has been exceedingly difficult for many of the best players in the world, including Scottie Scheffler, who just barely made the cut, and including Tiger Woods, who missed the cut, along with some other fairly high-profile players. It's a pretty bunched leaderboard, which is kind of what you expect when par is the number that you're kind of shooting for. You know, anytime you go to Pinehurst number 2, you know that, even par is going to be a pretty damn good round. You're going to make a lot of bogeys there. You just hope that you have some birdies to offset it. Ludwig Aubert is leading in the solo lead at -5, and he's being trailed by Bryson DeChambeau, who we've been talking about for every major this year. Patrick Cantlay, who's chasing his first major, and then Thomas Detry, who has, sort of been in the conversation in golf internationally, but hasn't necessarily really been on the big stage like this in a primetime moment before in his career. So just what are your initial thoughts on the U.S. Open, Jay? What have you been noticing out there when you've been watching?
Looks like Nate. Looks like we
lost
you,
me.
Nate. Are we back? Can you hear me?
Are we back? I don't know. I can hear you.
I got you, Nate.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you, Jay.
So what are we thinking here, Jay? What have you noticed in the U.S. Open so far?
Well, first of all, brutal. I mean, just absolutely brutal. So in 2000, when Martin Keimer won in 2014, anytime he got around the green surrounds, guys, he putted, and he wound up destroying the field and winning by 8. So what the USGA did now is instead of leaving all that really tightly mown, they put an additional level of grass in to eliminate somebody using a putter. And one of the things that I noticed on the sad note is that Tiger Woods looks like just another guy. He looks like just another guy. He can't use his lower body when he swings at all, and he looks just like another guy, and that breaks my heart because I was really hoping to see something from him. And if he plays another U.S. Open, I'll be surprised. But one of the things guys notice when you watch today and tomorrow, there's never a tournament that's got more indecision for the pros around the greens because the USGA gives us so many choices. You see guys with little hybrid clubs, you see wedges, so the ball's up in the air, the ball's along the ground. Guys are getting the putter in their hand whenever they can. But these greens, my college roommate Steve Pate said these greens are like German football helmets, except harder to hit. And I'm like, how does it get harder to hit than that? So the green sizes are all around 6,000 square feet, guys, but the effective size of them is so much smaller because of all the drop-offs. And they're gonna cut the water, and you're gonna see blood this weekend. And today's gonna be crucial to see which one of these under par guys can put a round together to establish themselves, and this is going to be their tournament. I look for the guys like DeChambeau and Rory that have been there before. DeChambeau, second at the PGA Championship, sixth at Augusta. Rory hasn't won a major in 10 years. You got Thomas Dietrich that just pops his head up all the time but doesn't ever seem to win, which is interesting. And then Patrick Cantlay, who's been all but dead this year. I mean, he's played horribly. So it's going to be back end of the tournament, guys. You're going to see people that at the end of today at 15 and 20 over par. They're going to wave the white flag and they're like, I don't know. I made some money this week, but I can't get my ball to go anywhere where I want it to. It's extremely difficult.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that as well. You know, and I was thinking even further back to the 2005 U.S. Open at Pinehurst, which, you know, Retief Goosen and Jason Gore went out in the final group in the lead for the U.S. Open, and I think Retief Goosen shot 80, and I think Jason Gore shot 81. So, you know, it can go sideways on you pretty fast at Pinehurst. I mean, Michael Campbell was basically just kind of hanging around and just survived and just sort of watched everyone just crater and come back to him. And when the course is this tough, I mean, that's, you know, somebody that's around even par or even one over, if they shoot a pretty good round today, if they can come in at 67 and get themselves to, you know, -2, -3, like they're right there in this. I mean, you know, and
guys, you know what you don't see here is you don't see those 63s. You don't see those 62s. Those are gone. If someone does that, they're going to walk across water, even though there's no water down there. It's really it's going to be a really interesting day. This part of the tournament, especially in Pinehurst, stresses every part of your game. At least it stressed the hell out of every part of my game. I don't know if you saw all the sand in all of the. I mean, they've just cut the water to the fairway, so this ball it'll just barely be going and roll into some of this. I don't know what it is, but it's like this wiry, sandy grass that you can't hit out of. You could try, but the thing goes all over the place. So it's going to be fun. You know, Xander Schauffele is the most recent major champion, and he put together a really nice round yesterday after a bad start. So I like the guys that have some experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just keep going back to I sort of thought when we were coming into this year and before the Masters, I kept thinking this feels like a year that Bryson will win a major. He just seemed so close. He'd been playing pretty well on Live, and I just kept thinking it's gonna be his year. You know, his putter sort of abandoned him at Augusta National. It did not abandon him at the PGA Championship. I mean, he was right there until the end, until Xander makes a birdie on 18 to win. And then again, he's right there at the U.S. Open. And this probably, if you're just looking at majors that Bryson's going to be good at, the U.S. Open is probably his tournament. I mean, he's so long off the tee. His ability to sort of generate height with his iron shots on his approach shots is so much higher than everyone else. I mean, the amount of speed and spin that he can put on a golf ball, it's almost like he's playing a different game sometimes.
Yeah.
And somewhere like Pinehurst number 2, where you have to be coming in with quite a bit of you know, trajectory and quite a bit of spin to be able to even just sort of hold these greens. You have to figure that Bryson's probably best suited to sort of being able to make a charge, and Rory obviously as well. I mean, you know, the height, and it's been, you know, a well-documented 10-year major drought for Rory, which is, you know.
And Nate, the farther we get away from that last win, the harder it is, man. It's a monkey. It turns in because it's all anybody talks about for him.
Yeah.
He can
What,
win every other tournament.
3,500 days or something? Yeah.
Pardon?
3,500 days, I think, since his
Yeah.
last major victory, somewhere around that neighborhood. So, I mean,
He's waffled on every single thing. He hated Liv. Now he likes Liv. He wanted the Liv guys out of the Ryder Cup. Now back in the Ryder Cup. I'm getting divorced. No, I'm not getting divorced. It's been an interesting time. Another thing to note that's a sidebar, guys, is I'm told that there's the basic outline and things are getting almost done with the PIF, and there's going to be some sort of news coming out very soon about this re-engagement with Liv and PGA Tour. Yep.
Okay. I had just sort of assumed that had all stalled out based on everything that I'd been seeing.
They had a meeting last week. Even Tiger was like, yeah, we're he doesn't share anything. So there's stuff happening.
I mean, and that's obviously what we all want at this point. The golf landscape has become so splintered that it's sort of diluted the PGA Tour. The Liv has obviously struggled to draw viewership. I don't find their product to be the most engaging television-wise with the shotgun start, especially, if you want to do it for the first 2 rounds, sure. But I think that on Sundays, it's really hard to watch Liv and be interested because all those guys it's just like chaos. It's not an orchestra playing like towards a crescendo. It's just like a bunch of people playing instruments at the same time with no.
Right. John's finishing on hole number 3. You're finishing on hole 17, and I'm finishing on hole number 6, and we're all tied.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The golf course was designed to play a certain way. So like you say, Nate, there's a crescendo, but Greg Norman just likes to blow stuff up, so he's going to be divisive and throw this in there. And, golf, I don't know if you saw any of the clips from Ian Poulter this week, guys, but Ian Poulter went off on a couple of fans, and they don't find, John, you'll get a kick out of this on the Live Tour. They don't find the players for swearing and for what we call on the PGA Tour conduct on becoming a professional. Ian Poulter went off on a guy. He spared no F-bombs.
Yeah. I mean,
what you're saying is the LIV guy, the whole thing, watching the Arizona football Cardinals, right? There's chaos, nothing makes any sense, and it's all shotgun, and nobody's on the same page, and your quarterback goes out and finds guys open in the sandlot. So it's like Arizona Cardinals football.
That is a weird choice of reference, John.
Yeah. I'm the king of analogies.
I can see Kyler Murray.
It's true. If you watch the Cardinals play, there's no game plan. It's all shotgun. It's all drawn up plays in the dirt. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. And so it's kind of the same thing.
Murray was running the show, but I think they're more disciplined under Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I guess sort of to get back to the U.S. Open, we have, there's to my mind probably 8 or 10 guys that probably can win this thing. Jay, I don't know if you think that it's more, but I think probably it's going to come from somebody that's currently under par, I would imagine, barring something really strange happening. I mean, Hideki Matsuyama shot 66 yesterday, and it would have it may as well have been a 59. Like right. It was so much better than people are supposed to be playing this course, and I mean, for someone like Hideki to shoot 66 here, and his short game has been great all season. He's number 1 in strokes gained around the greens for the season on tour. He's number 1 in strokes gained around the greens this week. It makes a lot of sense for a guy who's really thought of as like more of like a premier ball striker, and sort of has an underrated short game because of it. It makes sense that he would be able to put together that round that everyone else has struggled with, considering he has, statistically, the best short game on tour. But Ludwig Ober's plus 320 right now, if you want to bet him at the midway mark. Getting a little over 3-1. If you want Bryson, he's 4-1. Rory's plus 450. And then it really starts to get, Cantley's plus 900. And then we get to the double digits. In terms of odds, if someone's looking to just jump in here, sort of considering the odds, like who realistically has a shot here? Like I look at Finau and I basically throw him out. I look at Detry and I pretty much am willing to throw him out as well, given this field. Matthew Pavon at -3, probably not his time yet. But there's a lot of guys here that have done this before, or it looks like they're really kind of due. Cantlay at the beginning of the season, we would have thought, yeah, like he's due. He's, won 8 times on tour. He's basically the best player without a major, particularly since Xander won the PGA Championship. Like who's going to come out of this? Ludwig Aubert has, been meteoric in his rise and has looked comfortable on the biggest stages for a guy who's basically playing his first full season on tour. Does he have enough juice to get this done, or do you think somebody's going to come chase him down?
I got to tell you what, this kid, Aubert, has been so impressive ever since he got on tour. I mean, this is only his 3rd major. In his first major, he finished 2nd at Augusta. I mean, the kid has got so much game. It's going to get really hot in his kitchen, and you're really gonna get to see. But the thing to notice, guys, is that it's going to be next to impossible to make up a bunch of ground. Meaning, say a guy at 2 over, Nate, he's got to put together the round of his life today to get back in there, because there's just not. You're not going to go out and make 7 birdies today. It's just not happening. So you kind of shift your scale and go, okay, well, if I shoot 2 under par, that's great, but that only gets him to even par. That means all those guys in the red have to come back to him, and it's too many. There's too many people in there, and too many good players. Could they all, have a terrible day? Yeah, it just doesn't ever seem to happen. So I like what you said. I like a guy like Matsuyama. I like a guy like Schauffele and the guys that have been there before. It's so difficult to win on the PGA Tour in general, but for a major championship with this sort of leaderboard, man, it's really going to be tough. I want to see what McIlroy comes out. I'm going to think I'm going to be disappointed with him, so I'm not going to bet on him, but I am going to look and see what Matza does. Tony Finau's an interesting guy. He can ball strike his ass off, but that putting stroke makes a cup of coffee nervous. I mean, he has a daylight stroke. When he takes the putter back and he sees daylight between he and his ball, he goes forward. That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Did you guys hear what Terrell Hatton said? This guy is a character. He said now everybody else can play golf like I do every week on tour, because the U.S. Open just gets in your mind and blows your mind up. And now everybody else is playing like, because this course is in their head. It is. Yeah, it is in their head. And they don't know what to do. And they can't get the ball to stop on the greens. And it just pisses all these guys off. So I like the guys with some experience. I happen to love Bryson DeChambeau because he's so freaky and does everything so weirdly. So I'm gonna look at him, and I'm on hope Rory, because I'm a huge Rory fan. Patrick Cantlay's a UCLA guy. I want to root for him. He plays so damn slow. He drives me crazy. So
he drives me crazy too.
Yeah, I'm just like, come on, let's go.
I like Rory in this. I'm going to go with Rory. I'm going to go with Rory for one reason, okay? Because he's smart. Because he thought about getting divorced, and then he said, idea. So he thought it through, and he's like, let's see. I get divorced. I get divorced. I have no money. I can't see my kids. She has control of everything, and I should stay married. And so just based on that, the guy's highly intelligent, right? I'm a marriage and working it out. So I think he's very, very smart. And so, look, and now he's got all that off his mind. He's going to stay with his wife, and he's got all that behind him. So I think his mind is free and he's good to go. Hey, I gotta make a comment. May I?
Let me. Dan's been trying to get a question.
I'm sorry.
Here.
Yeah, Jay. One thing that you mentioned that I wanted to touch on is how this course is in these golfers' heads. Like, what makes it so difficult? Is it just the design of the course, the leaderboard, like staring at that leaderboard? Because you've played this course and you have knowledge of this. Like, what makes it so difficult?
It's the setup, Dan. So you hit good to great shots and don't get any sort of reward. You don't. You'll hit this beautiful shot. You hit it in the right area, and you literally will have a 4 or 5 foot area to land your ball in to get it to stay on the green. You're not talking about going close to the hole. And then once it rolls off, you'll watch this ball goes down these little false fronts and gains all this momentum, and then just trickles into this spot. And you're like, I can't get there from here. Right. You know what I mean? You have to hit this perfect little shot that'll run up a bank, kill and then just trickle down to the hole. And if you hit it just a fraction too hard, it goes all the way over to the other side of the green. It's insane. And that's what, so it takes an incredible amount of patience to play the US Open all the time, but especially this week because of the design. And then the USGA is diabolical. They'll cut all the water off, so the greens will be hard as a rock. You're going to see balls bouncing that are going to be looking like they're. The sixth hole is 230 yards long, and these guys are hitting long irons that are landing, 4 and 5 feet on the front edge of the green and still going off the back. And that was the first 2 days. It's not going to get any softer.
Right. It forces guys to play away from pins where usually they would hit at a pin. Okay. You're usually, if you got a wedge in your hand, you're thinking, I'm just going right at it. I'll be 5-6 feet away. And these guys are holding a wedge thinking like, I might like a 30-foot putt is like, okay here. Like
it's great. It's
move it away.
That's so spot on. And you have to completely readapt your style and your mindset. And these guys, look, on the PGA Tour, what sells is bombs and birdies. That's what we're selling on the PGA Tour. 20 under par, 25 under par. You go here, it's just entirely different. And guys will come off of this golf course pissed off. They'll be really excited to get to Hartford next week, where I think it's Hartford next week, where they can bombs away again.
John?
That makes sense.
I just got a comment for Jay. First of all, Jay, welcome to the club. Doing your show in your car. This is the John Fredericks Media Network culture, right? When you can do your show in a car, you are in the club. Like, this is the way we roll, buddy. So I'm so proud of you.
He's doing this from his car and has better reception than you, though.
I know, because I'm in Cape Cod. I have no internet here. Maybe I got to go figure it out. I got to buy a new
internet device. You have no internet like every other week.
You could be doing this from Times Square and still have this reception.
It doesn't matter where I go.
Really
Internet. There's a device I have to buy. I've got this thing called a Live View that where I go on TV with that gets reception. In the desert, I got to buy one of those for the internet when I get around to it. But Jay, you're in the club. You're in the culture. You're doing your show from your car, the John Fredericks Media Network way. And we're always on the road. And so thank you for doing that. You're in the club. Also, can I highlight, we're talking about golf. Can I highlight the new Jay Delsing golf show that's coming to the network, Jay? We're so excited. We're so fired up. It's an exclusive Jay Delsing show, a golf show on the John Fredericks Media Network. Just tell our audience, Jay, a little bit about when it is and how people can tune in.
We're still working the times out, but it's going to be on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be an hour show. And oh my gosh, we've got some great guests, Barbara Nicholas and Jim Nance and David Faraday. And I'm so excited to be with you, John. Our uniforms are being sent out this week. My daughter ordered them. We're going to keep them a surprise for the listeners, but I'll be wearing it. Hopefully next week I'll be wearing my uniform hoodie, and hopefully I won't be doing it in my car because I'll be sweating my ass off if I am. But I'll be having my hoodie on next week. I'm just excited to be with you guys. They're so much fun. I love this format, and I love talking sports. And you guys, it's great to get all these different opinions.
Awesome.
So
Thanks,
you're
Jay. I know that you have a tea time, so you just get out of here whenever you need to. I don't want to hold you up.
Well, Nancy told me, our national sales manager, Nancy McGee, told me your show starts July 6th. Is that still on?
I'm sorry, you're right. July 6th. Saturday, July 6th will be the first show. And Nancy McGee, we got to get this chick on the show. She's a baller. I love this woman. She is out there selling and asking. I mean, no one's going to be able to tell this woman no. She's awesome.
Well, she sold a bunch of ads for you right off the bat. She's our national sales director, Nancy McGee. Very, very. She's a veteran. She's also a golfer and a very good one. And so we look forward to having her involvement here. But July 6th, did you guys work out the times yet, or is that's still in play?
I think. Well, so tentatively, I think we're 12 o'clock on Saturday, and then we're going to be 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, but that's tentative. We should have that cleaned up by next week.
Your Bannon, coming in hot. Steve Bannon, War Room. Jay. Well, wait now. July. Did you
July 6th, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you'll get War Room, but you're not going to get Steve. You're not going to get Steve Bannon because he's going to be incarcerated. So you're not going to get Steve. Yeah, his appeals, unless he can pitch a miracle, here is going in the
Maybe
can
he can
July
do the
1st.
show from prison. Like, let's go.
They only get you only get a 15-minute phone or something. So, but he's got a backup crew. But you'll be coming in after War Room, so all of our fans know we'll move John Gordon to 1:00. And then when college football starts, who the hell knows what we'll do? But Jay, we're excited to have you on the team.
Thank you. Guys.
We're excited to have you.
Have a great rest of the show, John.
All right,
thanks
hit
for
him long and straight, Jay.
Can't wait. Take care, guys.
All right, so that was Jay Delsing talking U.S. Open. John, tell us about Rosie's.
Well, listen, I live a charmed life because here I am in Cape Cod for the Cape Cod Baseball League. Drove you up here, what is it, Thursday or something, or Wednesday? I don't even remember the days ago, but I think it was Wednesday. We came up here. His first game's tonight. He just joined the team from the Super Regionals. He was late getting here. So look, there's a lot worse places I can be than in Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the summer. So I'm up here for a couple, 3 weeks, enjoying it, see some of the games and relaxing a little bit, chill out. And then after that, I go to the convention in Milwaukee. And then after that, I go to Colonial Downs. We move our whole operation to the most gorgeous racetrack in America, maybe tied with Saratoga, but it's right up there. I love Colonial Downs. I can't wait to get there. So look, life is good if you're John Fredericks, right? Because you go to Milwaukee for the convention, then you go to Colonial Downs. It can't be better. We move our whole thing there. And it's fun. I mean, at 66, you got to have fun, right? And so I'm enjoying life and being at the Colonial Deck near 5 a.m. every day, and you get to see the sun come up and the suite that we have and the horses working out. But look, go to colonialdowns.com. That meet starts middle of July. It goes all the way through past Labor Day in September. Racing is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the afternoon. I think post time 1 o'clock Thursday, 1 o'clock Saturday, Friday. You're going to have the best racing. Plus, you can go to Rosie's. Go to rosiesgaming.com where you're going to get the biggest jackpots, the biggest payouts, great culture that friend Nate Mize has developed. It's not like your average casino where you get smoke and it's dark and they pump oxygen and there's no windows. You get none of that here. It's bright, it's open, it's clean. Why? Because they don't need to pump oxygen in because they pump money out. That's the thing. You keep winning, you stay in. You go. No oxygen in, money goes out. Biggest jackpot because they have the lowest take out of estate takeout in the country. That's what the Virginia legislature. It sucks. Go to rosiegaming.com, rosiesgaming.com. Have fun, win money, and when Colonial Downs is there, check us out. We'll be in our suite. Can't wait. rosiegaming.com.
rosiesgaming.com, longtime sponsor, one of our first sponsors for this show. All right, so we're going to shift gears here a little bit and talk about the WNBA. We keep, finding some headlines, and we have a lot of fun talking about this. And I guess sort of what I wanted to talk about today was, so the WNBA is earning record TV ratings. They, up like through the roof. Attendance at an all-time high, 26-year peak. Merch sales are up 756%. League pass subscriptions are up 335%. The numbers are booming for the WNBA just on the surface, right? Everything is, they're moving to bigger arenas to play some of these games, particularly when Caitlin Clark comes to town, because a lot of these stadiums aren't sort of, being able to fulfill the demand. A lot of these stadiums only have, 4,000 occupancy. So they're trying to move them to bigger sort of NBA stadiums. So all of that's happening. However, the downside is that it's looking like the WNBA is going to lose somewhere, per the Washington Post, in the neighborhood of $50 million this year. And a lot of that has to do with sort of their contract structures with the NBA, which has floated sort of a lot of the financial burden for the WNBA before this sort of boom. Some of it has to do with, paying for these bigger venues, paying for charter flights for players because, they aren't traveling commercially as much anymore. What do we make of this sort of boom? What do we make of this sort of money loss? When I look at it, I just think this is sort of what companies do when they're growing, and that this money will come back to them. Eventually, there's just sort of scaling up right now, and eventually this will level out and potentially become sort of a product that the NBA doesn't have to invest quite as much money into as they have in the past. But it's tricky. Dan, what do you make of the sort of record TV, record attendance, and where does the WNBA sort of go from here? I guess sort of in these national stages of growth.
Yeah, it's kind of growing pains for this league that's finally getting the attention that it deserves, but it's tough. I mean, like I've seen a fair amount of people saying, well, just give the WNBA players equal salaries with the NBA players and make it equal pay for equal work. Well, no, you can't do that right away because the league's got to get that revenue built up. Like, it takes time. It takes a lot of smart marketing decisions. It takes a lot of effort before you're able to get those salaries to where they should be, before you're able to get lucrative sponsorships, a good TV deal. I mean, the NBA used to not be a very well-run league. John might actually remember this. Because back in the 70s when the ABA showed up, the NBA was seen as kind of minor league in some places because it just wasn't run very well. Like some coaches from the ABA would say that, we were the major league. The NBA does all the things that we do now. The NBA was just poorly run, and going there felt like a downgrade. And the WNBA is in a better place than the NBA was 50 years ago, but it's still trying to get into that stage where it's a strong product on its own. Like, the product itself, what they're putting out on the court has always been strong, but now they're trying to get the money to flow in to make sure that this can be something that can stand on its own and be something that can thrive long term, well after Caitlin Clark's career is over.
Yeah, and some of that, like I said, has to do with, I read this article on Front Office Sports when I was kind of prepping for this. Some of it has to do with the fact that, like, the WNBA has sort of borrowed money from a lot, or not borrowed, but they have a lot of investors in their product that they've taken money from that they have to pay back, that, revenues go back to these people. So, the WNBA raised about $75 million from Nike, NBA owners, the NBA itself, and others in 2022. And what that means is that the NBA receives about 40% of WNBA revenue. And, the other investors get about 20%. So, there's not as much money to just go around based on these sort of investment contracts. It's not like, like all this money just comes to the WNBA now, they should be financially solvent. They're paying a lot of people that have invested pretty heavily in this product, and a lot of those revenues are sort of going out the door as quickly as they come in.
Sure.
John, what do you think?
Three things. Number one, it is a good product, and it's getting better, and it's building a fan base. Like me, I never really followed it. Now I do, to a certain extent. I like watching the games. Obviously, your best friend and my son Jack coached women's basketball, so that's how I first got into it. Talking about it. It's kind of fun back in the day. Second thing, $50 million is not a lot of money in the scope of having a league. I mean, it's not like they're losing $1 billion. Like, $50 million just isn't that much money. I mean, it is to you and I, and it is. Yeah, I mean, it is to you and I, but what's his name? Crane just gave Jose Abreu a $58 million contract to hit 087, and they cut him and eats it. I mean, that's just one player, and the guy sucks. So it's just not in the scope of it's kind of the end. It's just not that much money. One investor comes in, they're good. But I think that the main thing that they have to do, and I know I don't want you to cut me off because you asked me for my opinion. What is going to kill this league in its infancy in the crib is political statements. Shut up and play basketball. Shut up and put a product on the court. Get off of social media with your political opinions, and with Caitlin Clark, either side. I don't care. I'm not interested. Shut up. If you can do that and you can focus on playing the game, right, then you have a shot at being a legit league. If all you're going to do is social media and blast conservative, which is what they're doing. Sorry, that's what they're doing. You're going to just turn the hell off. Guess if they don't do that, they turn in Bud Light too. Just shut up. Play basketball. Caitlin Clark got it right. Let me play the game. I don't care about your social wars. Keep my name out of it. I'm trying to figure out how to win for a team that's in last place. That's what I'm focused on. If they can do that, they have an opportunity to be successful, get a fan base, start making money. They can just shut up. They have an opportunity to really be something. And I think it's exciting. It's an exciting league. Women's college basketball, you can see that. You know, and look, as we go forward, we're going to get the personalities. We're going to get the Kim Mulkey's personality of coaches. All that's going to come out. Because before Caitlin Clark, this thing was kind of milk toast, right? $80,000. Everything was kind of the same. Coaches were nondescript. I think we had Bill Lambier when they first started. All of them focus on basketball. If they can do that, this thing is going to be a very hot product.
And I mean, I think that some of that is just sort of like the media sort of adjusting to, you know, you have a lot of people that cover the WNBA that weren't necessarily like, you know, in the national spotlight a year ago. You have a lot of NBA guys, commentators, sort of being put on the spot for WNBA stuff. I think that some of it is just the sort of growing pains of a lot of people are learning how to talk about the WNBA in a way that's not sort of paternalistic, in a way that's not sort of degrading in some ways, and in ways that are sort of recognizing that it is a good product. So I think, you know, I don't even know if it's the players so much as the media coverage of the WNBA just hasn't really been able to find a really.
That sucks. We talked about this a week ago, Nate and Dan, and you guys covered. I mean, the media coverage of the WNBA absolutely sucks because they don't know what to do. Just go out there and cover the basketball game. The gender is irrelevant. If you make the gender relevant to your coverage, it just doesn't read well. I mean, when you read the New York Post, like I do every day, I don't, because it's fun. You read the Post and the New York Knickerbockers blow a game. It's on the back page, and they just blast the players. They blast the coaches. They blast the callers. They blast the inbound pass. I mean, it's brutal. But that you read it if you're a New York fan. You want that. Same thing with the Jets or the Giants or anything else. WNBA, it's all like they don't know how to handle it. Just cover basketball, right? If somebody makes a bonehead play, write about it. Doesn't matter what the gender is. If you genderize it, you're going to lose something because it's a really good product. And they play really good basketball, and it's fun. And so I think if they do that, it's up to the media now to figure out how to cover this in a legit way. And right now they're not doing it.
Yeah, we need to get to a point where it's not just we're letting the women play basketball, and we get to a point where lovers of basketball can say we get 330 days a year, basically, of high level professional basketball. You know, and that's what the WNBA, you know, it bridges most of the NBA offseason, and that's, you know, been the draw for the NBA all along. And they're finally sort of getting to a point where I think we're going to get, you know, to that area where people just sort of, you know, that just want to watch basketball all year can. And they can watch it at a high level.
I mean, we've touched on it before. Like John said, it's similar to the criticism that women's soccer players have thrown at the media. Like Carly Lloyd has said multiple times, treat us like the men. Like when we screw up, criticize us. Like one great example was the U.S. women at the last World Cup when they drew with Portugal in their final game of the group stage, and they barely scraped through. Like some of the media were kind of reluctant to criticize them, and Carly Lloyd and a few others who had actually played in women's World Cups were saying, no, this is an embarrassment. Like we should not be just barely getting out of the group stage. We have 4 World Cups to our names. Like you would not treat the men this way if they were in this situation. Like the men are on a different scale because getting out of the group stage is an accomplishment for them. But like she was absolutely right. I mean, you have to treat these women athletes as just athletes, and praise them when they do well, criticize them when they screw up. That's the way it should be. Also, I love how every other segment is turning into some way for John to criticize the Astros.
Oh yeah,
They suck.
Doesn't matter what the topic
always
is.
at the front of his mind.
We could be talking about Wimbledon, WNBA, Euros, cricket. John
I can't take it.
Some way
He'll find a
turn
way.
it into a criticism of the Astros.
I can't take it. I can't take it. I've been an Astro fan. How old am I? 66. I was 7, 8. How many years is that? 58. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never missed a box score in 58 years until the last 2 weeks. They played 3 games in the Giants. I had no idea if they won or lost. They got beat the first game. My son told me, Joe, I can't take it. I can't take another blown save by Hader, another blown save by Presley, another blown save by Abreu, another meltdown by Montero, another day where they leave 18 guys on base. I can't take it. I can't take Abreu hitting 080. They finally cut his ass. I mean, the thing is a complete and utter disaster. We have no first baseman. They spent all this money and our sucks. Just what are we doing? Hey, Bagwell, what the hell's going on here? Have a president. Tell us what's going on. This thing is a disaster. It's the Disastros. They're unwatchable. They don't hit with guys on base. You look at their averages. It's top in the runs. They lead the league in left on base with 2 outs. Like, get a friggin' hit with somebody on base. I can't take it.
That's on us. We didn't need to bait you there.
Sorry.
So I guess like the next WNBA thing that we sort of had on the docket that everyone's been discussing this week. I think making maybe controversy where there shouldn't be any. Based on sort of how they select the Team USA for the Olympics, but Caitlin Clark was notably left off of Team USA along with basically every other sort of younger, there were no rookies that made the team for 5-on-5. Her skill set, she's never really played 3-on-3, so that was probably not going to work anyways. Is Caitlin Clark's snub from Team USA like a big deal, or can we just recognize that the committee sort of prized experience and that this is sort of like, a career achievement to be on Team USA versus just sort of like flavor of the moment sort of thing.
Like, unless we're doing what the Dream Team did in 1992, where they included Christian Laettner because they had to have one college player, Caitlin Clark had no business being on the Olympic team. She is an outstanding player. She's a generational talent. She has done nothing in the WNBA yet. I mean, her career consists of 12 games, and the Fever near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. She belongs on the 2028 Olympic team. That is when it will make sense for her. But right now, no, she had no business being on the roster, and I'm glad that they left her off.
John?
See, what Dan just said is exactly how the WNBA is going to be successful, right? Honest reporting, honest assessments. She has no business being on that team as a rookie on a last place team who 3 games ago scored 3 points. Okay. She has no business being on them. She hasn't earned it. And she's not as good right now as the other players that they chose. And it's as simple as that. You got to earn the right to play on the Olympic team. And she's not done that. And so they absolutely, good for them. They did the right thing in leaving her off and picking, the players that they thought are going to give the United States to win the gold medal. And so, and if you can't report about this stuff honestly, I'm telling you, this league is going to fail. Dan Angel nailed it.
Yeah. All right. So we love Newfound Thread ads so much. We do them twice on the show. John, let everybody know if they weren't listening the first hour, how we feel about Newfound Thread pants.
Well, I love my Newfound Thread pants. And the cool thing is owner Paul Dorn, he's going to come out with some Newfound Thread shorts, which I think is a good idea. But these are guy pants. And you kind of miss Mother's Day. But if you're looking for just a great pair of slacks, and I've got 4 of them, got them all here in Cape Cod. Because the thing you hear about Cape Cod is it gets a little chilly at night. Like when I went out for a walk last night when the sun was going down, which by the way, this is beautiful. I guess I'm on Nantucket Bay, right by the ocean or whatever it is. but it's windy and it's cold. I mean, it was like I had a hoodie on. I had to put my hoodie up, and then I was thinking, I should have brought my wool hat. So it gets chilly up here at night, but you get your new. You can wear them. I've got an event in New York City on what is this Saturday, Tuesday. So I got to take the train down there, and it's a suit and tie, and I'm going to wear my newfound thread pants, and I'm going to put them on at the baseball game tonight. So that's the beauty of these, and like I can't get anything. I don't even know where the cleaner place is. In the wash, hang them up. They're good to go, like you're in a suit. Beautiful pants. Go to newfoundthread.com. Promo code Godzilla. You're going to get 20% free shipping gear to go. Great pants.
Yeah, and if you were watching John do that live read, you didn't even need to know that he was in Cape Cod. You can just look at the decorations in the house and know that he's somewhere coastal. We have the ship wheel wall ornament. We have the sort of pastel baby blue house paint, the brighter blue couch with some sort of nautical themed throw pillows on it. I mean, you are in the Cape Codiest house in Cape Cod, I think.
I tell you, the thing about here is like Joe and I like to chill, right? Like, so I'm up here, I'm chilling, and you're just decompressing. You go outside, the sun is here, you get a breeze to chill because I work really hard and I need my downtime. Now, mom's coming up. Mom's not a chiller. And is not a chill. And go, or things to do. And so she was kind of fighting coming up here. And Joe told me, and Jack said the same thing, like mom doesn't chill. Like she doesn't get the chill thing. He's like, well, if I go there, what is there to do? I'm like, well, there's nothing to do. You chill. You sit on the porch, and you take a nap, or you decompress, you chill. She's like, what? I'm doing that. So she's coming up here. She'll be here in about 2 hours, but mom doesn't chill. Maybe this is going to be good for her. Maybe she comes up here. Maybe we'll force her to chill. You're here, except chill. So this is the place to be. I'm digging it. I'm here for 3 weeks. When I come back, I'm going to be so relaxed. When I go to the convention, they're going to be like, wow, he's like a new man. He's not tense. He's, gotta chill.
Well, there's also cops in Milwaukee, so that also helps with chilling.
I got to go to Milwaukee for 2 weeks. So I'm on the. Well,
you got to get some
team
while you're there, John.
I'm there for 2 weeks. I'm on the platform committee, so I got to get there a week early. I'm the whip there, so I got a big responsibility. Okay, I'm going to be fired up.
More chill.
Look up that flavor schedule. Love that frozen custard.
I can't eat it, dude. I'm on this diet.
No, the diet.
It's like horrible.
John, you're in Milwaukee. Break the diet for 1 day, then go back to eating healthy.
Okay, I'll do it. Done. That is a great suggestion. Here's the coolest thing about this place, right? So Joe and I check it. We get it's like a little cottage, right? Late Wednesday night. I think it was a 12-hour drive. We got here about 10:30. We're open the door, right? We're bringing our stuff in. We put the lights on, got all bags and all this camera equipment in the back that you see. We have to bring in. So the door's open. And what do you think comes in? This huge rabbit, a bunny rabbit, just waltzes right in, sits in the middle, and people. It's like, oh, I got brand new suckers here to feed me. Like, where's the carrots? Where's the I mean, he didn't run, but in the middle of the kitchen, sat there and looked up at us looking for food. This rabbit, whoever he is, obviously, he knows when people come in, they're going to feed him. Not a fear in the world. Then I go out today, right? I go, to bring the garbage out. He's on the back porch sunning himself before the show. So we bought carrots. We gave him that. And so he eats the carrots, and he just sits there waiting to get figured out.
An idyllic summer vacation retreat for John. All right, so getting back to sports talk here briefly, we got about 11 minutes left in the show, 10 minutes left in the show. We do have Stanley Cup still.
For now.
For a few more hours, perhaps.
I think the Oilers might be looking to rent John's cabin next.
Yeah, they're going to be due for a retreat after this series. So for those of you that haven't
just
been
ask a
following the
question.
Stanley Cup,
Does the Panthers goalie? I don't think is a real person. I really don't. I've come to the conclusion that it's some kind of robot they made with AI or something. Have had like 7 shots on goal and scored like 3 times. The guy's not human. He's got to be some kind of computer concoction that they made, and they kind of put a face on him, like like you do in the computer. What's some kind of AI? I mean, is that goalie real? Like, is that a real man or person?
Of course he is. It's what it is that Florida trusts and plays its system so beautifully. I mean, the Panthers, they're kind of like a vacuum. They just suck you in and they force you to play the game their way. They make sure that the shots you're getting, like you're going to get shots against the Panthers, but they're not going to be quality shots. And when on the rare occasions when you do get a quality shot, Bobrovsky's there to suck it up. Like it's honestly kind of reminding me of something that a minor league player once told me when I was covering minor league hockey a decade ago, when he was talking about their matchup against a team that played kind of a poor man's version of Florida style. What he said was, you're going to see like 1 chance per period, and if you miss it, you're never going to see it again. And that's kind of how Florida plays. Like, they let you think that you've got all these shots on goal, and they're just not quality shots because the defensemen are consistently in perfect position. They trust Bobrovsky completely with good reason, and they're just so deep. I mean, Florida just sends out line after line of talented players who play the system well. They know exactly what they're doing. And then when they have an opportunity, they get it out to their forwards and they break on it. I mean, it's a tough style to play against.
Yeah, I mean, and to give listeners the numbers that maybe aren't sure what we're talking about here, Sergei Bobrovsky plays for the Panthers, and his save percentage in the final so far is .953. He's stopped 82 of 86 shots on goal. Right now that pace is top 10 in a Stanley Cup final in history, in NHL history. And that's why the Panthers are up 3-0. Despite, there's arguments to be made, and I think John sort of alluded to that like maybe the Panthers have been like outplayed by sort of traditional metrics in at least maybe 1 or 2 of those games. And yet they still lead 3-0 and are looking to close out Edmonton Oilers tonight.
Yeah. Well, one big thing in this series.
Edmonton has control.
One big thing in this series that I thought was going to catch up with the Oilers was their lack of depth. I mean, Florida just can keep sending wave after wave of fresh players. The Oilers don't have that. I mean, they have 2 otherworldly talents in McDavid and Draisaitl, but the depth is just not there. And in a series against a team like this, it's just not going to work. John, go ahead.
You're right. I mean, and shout out here to Nate. Nate picked the Panthers games, and he's like right there. You look at these 3 games; they're unbelievable to me. But you guys nailed it, and I really missed this. And I pride myself on not doing what I did with Edmonton. They have the 2 best players in the NHL. Right?
Yeah,
a prolific offense. I mean, their shots on goal is like incredible. They can in all 3 games, but I think Nate nailed it. They got, think about this. They got 88 shots on goal.
86, yeah.
On goal, 86 shots. They got an average of 30 shots on goal a game and scored 3 goals. It's like, I mean, you just can't win. I mean, but you watch the games and they're controlling the tempo, but then you're right. Your was absolutely spot on. I couldn't really find the right words until they suck you into whatever. They suck you into the, what is it called? That triangle thing, the vortex or something with the devil's triangle. They suck you, and then they get a goal, and it's unbelievable. And they have, Edmonton's a front goal defense. What did Edmonton have? Like 8 power plays. Who does that?
Yeah.
In the championship
Edmonton
series,
hasn't
9
scored any power play goals this series.
9 power plays, no goals, and you just can't win. And so you look at the metrics. Best 2 players in the NHL, control the tempo, shots on goal, all the things you look for in betting hockey, right? Because if you bet hockey consistently on that, as I proved you this season, you're gonna turn a profit. It didn't work here. It worked all through the playoffs. It didn't work here. This Florida team is something special about athletics and teamwork and depth. And you don't have the 2 marquee players. I think Edmonton's got the 2 best players in NHL. You don't have any of that, but they got something. They got that team thing going, and that's why they're going to beat Edmonton tonight.
They have some talented scorers. I mean, Barkov has played well. Tkachuk, Sam Bennett. We are not talking nearly enough about playoff Sam Bennett. Like, he is getting absolutely no respect for what he brings to the table. Like, while researching this, I mean, he scored a point in, like, I think 6 straight games, and he's still going off at plus money to get a point in game 4. And last playoff series, he was one of the only ones who showed up in that series against Vegas in the Stanley Cup Finals. He had 5 goals, 10 assists in Florida's run last year. He's got 7 goals, 6 assists this time around. So Sam Bennett at plus money to get a point, not even a goal, just a point, makes a lot of sense tonight.
Yeah, and that sort of segues us into, our picks for tonight. So at 8:00 Eastern time on ABC, you can catch Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. This is unusual in that the Florida Panthers are going for a sweep, which hasn't happened in a Stanley Cup Final since 1998. The Oilers are looking to be the first team to come back from an 0-3 deficit in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since before the end of World War II.
Yeah,
1942 was the last time that happened. It's the only time it's happened. Okay, so tonight, are the Oilers going to make it to Game 5 at least, or does the series end here for in a sweep for the first time in 26 years?
It feels like a sweep. I mean, I want to say that this will get back to South Florida, but it just feels like a sweep. Edmonton has just been a step behind everything that Florida has tried to do throughout this series, and they had a nice attempt at a comeback in Game 3, but it just wasn't enough. And I think that's going to weigh on the Oilers as well, that they gave everything for that third period and they still just couldn't catch up to Florida. So I think that this one ends tonight.
John, do your Oilers at least make it a little bit more interesting and stretch out this series for one more game at least?
No, they're gone tonight. I agree with Dan. They put everything into that third game. They had to win that third game. They had a furious comeback. They got behind early again, and just had no shot. And you look at the third. You look at the last 10 minutes of the third period in every game, and you're just not going to beat this Panther team. So again, shout out to Nate, who picked the Panthers in 5. If you win in 4, you get a bonus. I picked Edmonton. Nate nailed it for all the right reasons. So big shout out to Nate. Great pickup.
All right. So everyone's sort of in on the Panthers closing this out. If you go to bet it, it looks like you can still get pretty good odds on the Panthers to close it out tonight. Edmonton's a very slight favorite based on the odds that I've looked at recently. Minus
one tip I want to throw in there. If you're looking for just a fun prop bet to try and hit a nice payout, look for a lesser known player to find the game-winning goal, because in games like this, like, the players that you don't often think of are often the ones who become the heroes at the end. Like, one example, when Florida was in the Stanley Cup Finals in '96 and got swept, Uwe Krupp scored the game-winning goal in triple overtime. He's a defenseman. A few years back when the Capitals beat the Golden Knights in the finals, I remember texting my brother, who is a huge Capitals fan, this feels like somebody like Lars Eller is going to score the winning goal. Sure enough, Lars Eller did actually find the winning goal. So look beyond the first and second lines to try and find a goal scorer with really good odds. It might pay off. Awesome analysis. Thank you, Dan. So that's going to be it for our show.
Dan Angel, thank you as always for all the writing, posting, radio stuff that you do. So great. Check out his articles on GodzillaWins.com. John, always good to have you, the Godzilla of truth, the paterfamilias of the network and the show. Vince Mayoko earlier today talking about College World Series. Jay Delsing, always a pleasure. Be sure and catch his upcoming show, his forthcoming show that'll be starting in July on the John Fredericks Media Network. And happy betting for the weekend. And we'll see you next week with more sports and more talking. And Jack will be back from vacation.